The day began with a quiet tension that no one could name, yet everyone felt it. The studio was bright and wide, filled with warm daylight that passed through tall white panels. Crew members moved slowly as if trying not to disturb something delicate in the air. Sandra walked across the stage with calm steps, but something about her pace seemed slightly uneven. She kept her chin high and her smile steady, yet her eyes carried a soft strain she tried to hide. She wanted the day to move fast because she believed work would distract her. She wanted to show strength even when her body felt heavy like it carried a quiet storm. She tried to convince herself that she could push through any discomfort because she had done it many times in her long career. But this time felt different, though she refused to admit it. Keanu arrived a short moment later with his usual gentle presence that filled the room without noise. He greeted everyone with a small smile and stood near the stage to study the scene they were about to film. He noticed the shift in Sandra's balance before anyone else did. She held a script in her left hand, but her right hand rested lightly on a metal stand, as if she needed the support. She lifted it away the moment she saw him look in her direction. She wanted to appear strong because she respected him and trusted him deeply. She never wanted him to worry. She believed that pushing forward was the best way to honor the work they shared. But her breath wavered slightly, and Keanu caught the subtle change. The director explained the sequence they needed to shoot. It was a quiet, emotional moment where Sandra's character walks across an elevated platform to meet Keanu's character. It was simple on paper, yet required calm focus and confident steps. Sandra nodded with steady eyes, but her voice carried a thin softness that revealed her fatigue. She told the crew she was fine when someone asked if she needed a break. She spoke with a gentle confidence that convinced everyone except Keanu. He kept watching her carefully while pretending to adjust his costume. He had known her for many years, and he had learned to read her unspoken feelings. Something inside him felt wrong. He sensed that this was not normal tiredness. It felt deeper, like something she was fighting quietly. The scene began, and Sandra walked toward the platform with slow, measured steps. Her movements were beautiful and controlled, yet slightly stiff. Every time she blinked, her focus seemed to shake. The room held its breath as she climbed the first step. She exhaled softly and tried to steady herself. She kept telling herself that she only needed to get through this one scene. She believed that finishing it would prove to everyone and to herself that she was still strong. She refused to show weakness because she thought it might slow down the entire team. She wanted to protect everyone from delay. She never realized that the real danger lay in pushing herself too far. Keanu stepped into position for his part of the scene. He moved slowly to avoid drawing attention to her struggle. He watched her from the corner of his eye and noticed the way her fingers trembled when she lifted her hand. The light hit her face and revealed a soft, pale shade beneath her makeup. His heart tightened with concern. He knew she was not telling the full truth about how she felt. He also knew she would never ask for help until she reached her limit. He had seen that strength and that stubbornness before, and it always came from a place of love for the craft. But today, something felt fragile in the air, like a thin string stretched too far. He feared that one more step might break it. The camera rolled and Sandra began walking across the elevated platform. She placed her first step with careful grace, but her second step landed slightly off the mark. Her foot shifted to the side, and her balance wavered for a brief, frightening moment. The crew gasped quietly, but she kept moving forward as if nothing had happened. She forced her smile to stay soft and natural even though her chest felt tight. Keanu felt a sharp fear rise inside him. He wanted to stop the scene, but he knew she would resist. He breathed slowly and waited for a moment when he could intervene without embarrassing her in front of everyone. He wanted to protect her dignity as much as her safety. But the tension in the room thickened when Sandra reached the midpoint of the platform. Her vision blurred slightly and the edges of the set faded for a second. She blinked hard and tried to steady her breath. She whispered to herself that she could make it. She told herself that she could push through just a little more. She refused to let the dizziness win. She refused to appear weak on a day that held so much importance for the production, yet her steps grew slower and her shoulders slumped just slightly. Keanu watched her with deep worry because he could see what everyone else could not. He saw the quiet pain she hid behind her calm expression. Then it happened. Sandra lifted her foot for the next step, but her body tilted to the side as the platform vibrated under her weight. Her hand reached toward the rail but missed by an inch. Time slowed in Keanu's mind. He no longer cared about the scene or the cameras or the schedule. He took one calm step toward her, ready to catch her if she fell. His eyes stayed fixed on her face. He felt the moment breaking open like a warning he could no longer ignore. The director shouted to cut, but the echo barely reached Sandra before her balance gave another small shake. She held herself up with sheer willpower, but her breath turned uneven. She wanted to keep going. She wanted to finish the moment. But her body finally sent a message she could not silence. Keanu moved closer with a calm, steady presence. He did not touch her yet. He simply positioned himself near enough that she could feel his support even if she refused to look at him. She sensed him there, and her heart softened slightly. She had pushed herself beyond her limit, and for the first time that day she realized she might not be able to hide it anymore. The entire studio fell silent, waiting to see what would happen next. The quiet suspense held every soul in place. Sandra stood still, trying to gather strength. Keanu stood near her, waiting for the right moment to speak. Something important was about to unfold. The studio remained silent after the director called cut, but the silence felt heavier now. Sandra stood on the platform with her hands resting softly at her sides. She tried to keep a calm expression, though her body felt unsteady. She did not want anyone to see her weakness. She believed she could gather herself if she only took a few slow breaths. She forced a gentle smile when a makeup artist stepped forward to check on her. She said she was fine. She always said she was fine. But today the words felt thinner than ever. Keanu remained close to the platform. He watched her carefully with a deep, calm concern in his eyes. He knew she was trying to hold herself together through sheer will. He admired her strength deeply. But he also saw the quiet fear behind her forced, steady posture. He saw the way her shoulders carried more weight than usual. He felt the shift in the energy around her. It was the kind of moment where pride and pain fought silently for space. He understood that battle because he had lived it many times himself. The director approached with a soft voice. He asked if she wanted to rest for a few minutes. She nodded politely but insisted she could continue soon. She stepped off the platform with slow, careful steps. She walked toward a chair near the monitors and sat down with a graceful smile. She hoped no one noticed the way her fingers trembled when she adjusted her hair. She told herself that the dizziness would pass. She felt a faint pressure behind her eyes, like a soft pulse that refused to settle. She closed her eyes for a short moment and tried to breathe through it. Keanu stood a few feet away, pretending to look at his script, but he was really watching her. He saw the change in her breathing. He saw the pale shade in her cheeks. He knew she was pushing herself beyond what was safe. He respected her work ethic more than anything. She had always been strong, focused, and quietly brave, but today her bravery felt more like self-denial. He stepped closer with slow, steady steps that did not draw attention from the busy crew. He stopped beside her chair and lowered his voice. Sandra opened her eyes when she sensed him near. She greeted him with a small smile, though her voice trembled softly. She said she was only a little tired. She said she just needed a moment to gather herself. She hoped he would accept her words and let it go. But Keanu looked at her with genuine concern that carried no judgment. His eyes softened as he studied her face. He could see she was struggling. He could see she was trying to pretend everything was fine. He admired her spirit, but he also feared for her safety. The tension rose inside Sandra as she realized Keanu was not fooled. She felt exposed in a way she had not expected. She had worked hard to appear composed. She wanted to be strong in front of the team. She did not want to delay the production. She did not want to be the reason things slowed down, but Keanu's calm, steady presence made it harder to hide. He had always seen her clearly. He had always understood her without needing many words. Her heart softened with a quiet ache. The makeup artist returned with a water bottle. Sandra took it with a grateful smile, though her hand shook slightly when she lifted it. She hoped no one saw the tremor. Keanu did. He moved a step closer and spoke with a soft certainty. He told her she did not look well. His tone was gentle, not forceful. He told her she did not need to carry everything alone. She tried to smile again, but her eyes revealed the truth he already knew. She felt a wave of dizziness rise again, and she placed a hand on the armrest to steady herself. Sandra wanted to stand, but her vision wavered slightly when she tried to move. Keanu reached out instinctively but stopped before touching her. He did not want to make her feel weak. He only wanted to offer silent support. He asked her if she had eaten enough that morning. She admitted in a soft whisper that she had skipped breakfast to arrive early. She tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked in the middle. Keanu felt a surge of concern. He knew she was pushing her limits to a dangerous point. The crew returned from their short break, ready to resume filming. The director called for positions. Sandra stood up slowly with a deep breath. She told herself she could do it. She believed she only needed to focus harder, but as she took her first step forward, her balance faltered slightly. Keanu stepped closer again. He spoke her name with a calm, steady tone. She paused because his voice carried something she could not ignore. She looked at him with tired eyes that betrayed her hidden struggle. Keanu leaned in gently so only she could hear him. He told her he could see she was fighting something bigger than tiredness. He told her it was all right to stop for a moment. His words were soft yet firm. They were filled with care and respect. Sandra felt her chest tighten with emotion. She did not want to disappoint him. She did not want to appear fragile, yet she also felt grateful for his presence. She felt safe with him in a way she rarely allowed herself to feel with anyone else. For a moment she considered telling him the truth. She wanted to say she had been feeling dizzy since the night before. She wanted to say she had woken up with her heart racing and her vision blurry for a few seconds. She wanted to say she pushed through because she feared delaying the shoot, but the words stayed trapped in her throat. She looked down and forced a small smile. She said she would finish the scene and then rest. Keanu did not believe her, but he did not argue yet. He waited for the right moment. The tension between them grew sharper yet quieter. The platform stood ready in the background like a silent threat. Sandra took another breath and moved toward it. Keanu watched each step with worry rising inside him. He knew the danger was getting closer. He knew she was hiding a truth that could hurt her if she kept pushing. He wanted to protect her, but he also wanted to respect her dignity. This balance weighed heavily on him. The crew signaled that cameras were ready. Sandra placed her foot on the first step of the platform again. Keanu stood nearby with a steady, watchful gaze. Something in the air shifted again. A sense of suspense wrapped around the moment. A quiet warning pulsed through Keanu's mind. He knew something was about to happen, he just did not know when. And then Sandra exhaled with a soft tremble that she tried to hide. But Keanu saw it, and he knew this was the moment he could no longer stand by in silence. The moment Sandra placed her second step on the platform, the room shifted again. The air felt tighter as if the studio itself sensed something was wrong. The lights buzzed softly above her, and the bright panels created a sharp contrast against her slightly unsteady figure. She kept her expression calm for the cameras. She wanted to appear strong because strength was the only shield she felt she had left. She took another small breath and tried to focus her eyes on the far edge of the set. But her vision wavered gently like heat rising from a warm road. She blinked hard. She ignored the quiet warning in her body. She told herself that she only needed a little more effort. Keanu watched her from the lower step with focused eyes. He kept his body still, but every part of him was alert. He saw the tiny tremor in her hand when she lifted it for balance. He saw the faint unsteadiness in her shoulders. He felt a deep pull inside his chest that told him something serious was happening beneath her calm surface. He wanted to call out to her. He wanted to stop the entire set, but he knew Sandra. He knew she would resist any sign of interference unless she had no other choice. So he walked slowly closer. His steps were quiet and steady. His presence alone offered support without taking away her dignity. The director called action again. The scene resumed with a slow, emotional pace. Sandra lifted her head and walked forward with determined grace. She delivered her lines with soft precision. Her voice carried warmth even though her body felt heavy. She focused on the rhythm of her words because it was the only thing keeping her balanced. But as she crossed the midpoint, her breath shortened. She felt a light pressure push against her ribs. She tried to ignore it. She tried to hold her ground. Keanu moved closer than before. His character was supposed to meet her near the end of the platform. His proximity did not break the scene because the script allowed it. But the truth was much deeper. He stayed close because he feared she might fall. The tension grew thicker as he stepped into his mark. His eyes stayed fixed on her face instead of the camera. He studied the small changes in her expression. He saw a moment where her eyelids fluttered slightly more than usual. He felt a deep worry spread through him like a slow shadow. The crew watched the scene unfold in focused silence. No one wanted to interrupt because the emotional energy felt powerful. But they did not see the quiet struggle hidden behind Sandra's calm posture. They did not see the quiet panic she felt when her foot missed its precise position by a small inch. She saved herself with a quick shift, but the adjustment sent a soft pulse of dizziness through her head. She swallowed hard and tried to steady her breath. She hoped the moment would pass. But the dizziness returned stronger than before. She felt it climb through her chest. She wanted to push forward anyway. Keanu took a small step toward her. It was not in the script, but it looked natural enough that the director did not yell cut. He lowered his voice and spoke her name as part of the scene, but the tone carried something personal beneath the character. Sandra heard the concern behind the line. She felt his voice reach her like a hand extended in silence. She wanted to keep walking, but her legs felt slightly weaker. She placed her foot down softly and felt the platform shift under her weight. The twist arrived without warning. Her vision blurred for a brief instant and the set lights stretched into a soft glow. She blinked and tried to focus, but the world tilted gently to the right. Her knee softened and her balance slipped. Her heart jumped with a short rush of fear. She reached out toward the rail, but her hand moved slower than she expected. Keanu saw the change before she could react. He stepped forward quickly with a calm, steady pace. He lifted his arm slightly without touching her yet. He wanted to give her space, but he also wanted to prevent a fall. Sandra inhaled sharply as her balance drifted again. She felt the world spin lightly. She fought to stay upright. She told herself she could recover. She told herself she could finish the scene. But the dizziness pushed harder and her breathing turned thin. She realized she might not be able to stop it this time. She felt a quiet fear rise inside her chest. She tried to speak, but her voice caught in her throat. She felt the edge of her strength slipping away. Keanu closed the distance between them. He kept his movements soft and controlled. He did not want to frighten her. He did not want to make the moment dramatic. He only wanted to protect her. He placed his hand near her arm with gentle intention. He did not grip her yet. He waited for a sign, and then Sandra's foot slid slightly on the smooth platform. That was the sign he needed. He touched her arm with a steady, firm hand and stopped her from falling. The entire room froze. No one breathed, no one moved. The director shouted cut, but the sound felt far away. The crew rushed forward, but Keanu raised his other hand to keep them back for a moment. He did not want Sandra overwhelmed. He turned toward her with soft, calm eyes. He spoke her name again, but this time without any script. She looked up at him with tired, frightened eyes. Her breath trembled. She tried to smile, but her expression wavered. She finally whispered that she felt dizzy. It was the first moment of truth she had allowed herself all day. Keanu guided her down the platform with slow, careful steps. He kept his hand steady on her arm. He did not rush. He did not let go until she reached the floor safely. His presence grounded her when the room felt unstable. She felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She lowered herself into the nearest chair. She rested her hands on her knees and closed her eyes. Her heart beat fast, but she felt relieved that she had not fallen. She felt relieved that Keanu had been there. The crew gathered around with quiet worry, but Keanu asked them to give her space. His voice stayed calm but firm. His tone carried care and respect. Sandra opened her eyes and looked at him. She saw the fear he had been hiding. She saw the genuine concern he carried for her. She felt a soft ache in her heart because she realized she had pushed herself too far. She had almost fallen. She had almost hurt herself. And she knew she could no longer pretend everything was fine. Keanu knelt beside her so he could look into her eyes without towering over her. He spoke gently. He asked her to tell the truth. He told her she did not have to carry this alone. She hesitated because her pride still held her back, but her exhaustion stripped away her defenses. She whispered that the dizziness had started the night before. She said she thought she could push through it. She said she did not want to waste anyone's time. Keanu listened with quiet patience. He did not show frustration. He only showed understanding. The director looked toward Keanu, waiting for guidance. Sandra felt the room watching her. She felt embarrassed for a moment. But then Keanu placed a soft hand on her shoulder and spoke with calm strength. He said she needed to rest. He said the scene could wait. His voice carried such certainty that no one questioned him. Sandra felt a wave of gratitude rise inside her chest. She looked at him and saw kindness. She saw respect. She saw quiet protection. But something deeper remained unresolved. The dizziness had grown stronger, and Keanu sensed there was more to the story than she had shared. He feared something important was being hidden beneath her brave silence. The next moment held a fragile suspense. Sandra lifted her hand to her temples with a soft tremble. Keanu leaned closer with growing worry. Something was not right. Something was unfolding beyond their control. And the answer was about to surface. The room felt heavier as Sandra pressed her hand against her temple. A soft tremble moved through her fingers, and Keanu noticed it instantly. The crew waited at a distance because they sensed something fragile was unfolding. The bright studio lights seemed too sharp for her eyes. She blinked several times, trying to steady the drifting blur that kept returning. She inhaled slowly, hoping the dizziness would pass, but the moment only grew heavier. She wanted to pretend it was nothing. She wanted to stand again. She wanted to show that she was still in control, but her body refused to support the lie any longer. Keanu stayed kneeling beside her chair. His voice was soft yet steady when he asked her again if she had felt dizzy before today. She hesitated because she feared the answer would worry him more. She pressed her lips together and lowered her eyes. He waited with patient silence. He did not push her. He only stayed close enough to remind her she was not alone. After a long moment, she whispered the truth. She said the dizziness had started late last night when she got up too fast. She said she ignored it because she thought it would disappear. She said she hoped the long morning would settle her body. The twist arrived slowly yet sharply. Sandra admitted she had felt faint several times during the morning rehearsals. She said she kept waiting for a moment when the spinning would stop. She told him she pushed through because she did not want production delays. She did not want anyone worrying about her. She thought hiding it would protect the team. But the truth had become impossible to hide on the platform. Her voice softened as she confessed everything. She felt a strange mix of shame and relief as the words escaped her. She wanted to be honest now because Keanu deserved honesty. Keanu listened with gentle understanding. He did not react with panic or frustration. He placed his hand on the armrest near hers without touching her. The gesture created a space of quiet support. He told her she had nothing to be ashamed of. He reminded her that the production existed because of people, not scenes. He told her she mattered more than any schedule. His tone held kindness and depth that made her chest ache softly. She looked into his eyes and saw no judgment. She only saw care. She only saw respect. She felt something inside her shift quietly. The crew members whispered among themselves but kept a respectful distance. The director approached and asked if she needed a medical check. Sandra smiled softly and said she only needed a short break. But the moment she tried to sit upright, her head swayed again. Keanu placed his hand gently on her shoulder to steady her. The director noticed the tremble in Sandra's breath and decided to pause the shoot for the day. Sandra wanted to protest, but Keanu gave a simple, calm glance that told her to rest. She did not argue. She finally accepted that she needed help. Keanu suggested they move her to a quieter corner away from the bright lights. He offered his hand without pushing her to take it. She hesitated for a second because she did not want to appear fragile, but the dizziness returned with a soft wave. She took his hand with a grateful whisper. He helped her stand with slow, careful guidance. Her legs felt unsteady for a moment. He kept his hand steady against her arm. His presence felt like an anchor in a drifting world. She leaned on him slightly, though she tried not to show it. Walk across the studio felt longer than expected. The noise from equipment echoed around them. Sandra kept her eyes low to avoid the sharp brightness from the panels. Keanu stayed close enough to guide her safely. Every few steps he checked her breathing. He spoke softly to keep her grounded. His voice held a calm rhythm that made her feel safe. She realized how much she had relied on quiet strength throughout her life. She had carried so many burdens alone, yet here was someone who would not let her fall. Even when she tried to act strong, he saw through her effort. They reached a small lounge room near the back of the studio. The lights were softer and the air cooler. Keanu helped her sit on a comfortable couch. She breathed deeply and rested against the cushions. He sat on the chair beside her and waited for her to settle. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt warm and calming. Sandra finally whispered that she hated being seen like this. She said she should have taken better care of herself. She blamed herself for letting the situation grow worse. Keanu leaned forward slightly. He told her that strength was not about pushing until you collapse. He said real strength was knowing when to stop. His voice carried kindness that reached her heart instantly. He said she had spent her whole life carrying more than she admitted. He said she deserved rest. She looked at him with softened eyes because his words felt true. She felt the tension inside her chest slowly melt. She realized she did not need to prove anything right now. She only needed to breathe. Then the unexpected twist deepened. Sandra admitted she had been dealing with heavy stress for several weeks. She said she felt pressure to perform perfectly because the film mattered a lot. She said she feared letting people down. She hid the pressure behind her smile because she believed people expected her to stay composed. She said the dizziness started soon after those stressful days began. Keanu listened closely to every word. His worry deepened, but so did his compassion. He realized this was not only exhaustion. This was emotional weight she had been carrying in silence. Keanu placed his hand near hers on the couch. He spoke with calm sincerity. He told her she did not have to face everything alone. He told her he understood pressure and fear. He told her he respected her strength, but he also cared about her well-being. Sandra felt her eyes warm with emotion. She rarely allowed anyone to see her vulnerable moments, yet with Keanu she felt safe. She felt understood. She felt something gentle and peaceful settle inside her heart. But just as she began to relax, a sudden sharp wave of dizziness hit her again. She grabbed the edge of the couch. Her breath caught in her throat. Keanu reacted instantly and leaned closer. He placed one steady hand behind her back to keep her from collapsing forward. She closed her eyes tightly as the room spun. He called her name in a calm yet urgent tone. She gripped his arm with trembling fingers. Her heartbeat quickened. Something was wrong, something deeper than she had shared. Keanu realized this was no longer simple fatigue. He felt a surge of worry rise through him. He knew she needed help beyond rest. He knew the moment had reached a dangerous point. He steadied her breathing with soft guidance. He stayed close until the wave passed. She opened her eyes slowly, but her face looked pale. She whispered that the spinning felt stronger than before. Fear flickered in her voice. Keanu held her gently without hesitation. The room felt heavy with silent suspense. The director approached again after hearing the commotion. He asked if they needed to call a medic. Keanu looked at Sandra with deep concern. She did not answer right away. Her breath trembled. She felt faint again. Keanu squeezed her hand softly. He told her they needed proper help now. His voice held calm strength. She nodded slowly because she trusted him. She finally accepted the truth. The medic was called. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Keanu stayed beside her, holding her steady. She leaned her head back with slow, uneven breaths. He kept his eyes on her with protective focus. Something inside him refused to leave her side. He felt a responsibility deeper than any scene. He felt a connection that came from respect and care. But just before the medic entered the room, Sandra whispered something that made Keanu's heart tighten sharply. She said she had not told him everything yet. The medic entered the lounge with a calm, professional expression and a small kit. The crew stayed outside the doorway to give Sandra privacy. Keanu remained close to her side on the couch. He moved slightly so the medic could kneel in front of her, but he did not let go of her hand. His steady grip told her he was not going anywhere. The room felt quieter than before. The distant sound of equipment and voices from the studio turned into a soft blur. In this small space, the only thing that mattered was her breathing. The medic asked gentle questions about what she felt. Sandra answered slowly between careful breaths. She said the room had been spinning on and off since morning. She said she felt pressure in her chest and a strange lightness in her head. She said she kept thinking it would pass if she pushed herself. The medic checked her pulse and blood pressure with slow, steady movements. Keanu watched with focused eyes. His jaw tightened slightly when he heard the medic mention stress and exhaustion. The words felt simple yet heavy. They described more than physical strain. They described the emotional weight she carried. The medic explained that her vitals were not in a dangerous zone, but he added that her body was clearly under serious strain. Dehydration, lack of proper sleep. Stress piled on top of both. He said her symptoms could become worse if she kept pushing. He recommended rest and observation. He suggested she see a doctor later if the dizziness returned. Sandra nodded politely. She listened, but her mind drifted back to the unfinished scene on the platform. A small guilt grew in her chest. She hated feeling like she had slowed everyone down. Keanu noticed her distant expression and recognized the look. It was the same look she had when she insisted she was fine earlier. It was the look of someone already planning to return to work despite the warning. After the medic finished checking her and left to speak with the director, Keanu turned his full attention back to her. He asked her softly what she had meant when she said she had not told him everything. His voice was gentle but firm. He wanted the truth not because of curiosity, but because he cared. Sandra hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly around his hand. She looked away toward the small window on the far wall. The light from outside was softer here. It made the room feel almost like a quiet dressing room between long scenes. She swallowed slowly. Then she confessed something she had kept hidden for weeks. She said the dizziness was not the first sign. She had been waking up at night with her heart racing and her thoughts spinning. She had brushed it off as nerves. She said she sometimes felt lightheaded even when sitting still, but she kept ignoring it. She believed she had no right to slow down when so many people depended on her. Keanu listened without interrupting. He let her pour out the truth she had locked away. He heard the fear behind her words, not fear of illness, but fear of being a burden. When she finally ran out of words, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. She whispered that she felt foolish. She said she should have known better. She said someone her age should not be pushing like a teenager. Her voice trembled with shame. She feared he would see her as careless or weak. Instead, he leaned closer and spoke with deep, quiet certainty. He told her she was not foolish. He said she had spent years putting others first. He reminded her of the long days and countless hours she had given to her work. He said it was natural for her body to demand care. He called it wisdom, not weakness. He said the real mistake would be ignoring the message and pretending everything was fine. His words felt like a soft blanket around her heart. They did not erase her fear, but they made it easier to breathe. Still, the internal conflict did not disappear. When the medic returned, he said she could stay in the lounge and rest for a while. He told her someone could drive her home later. He suggested she avoid bright lights and intense activity for the rest of the day. The director agreed to wrap the shoot early. News of the decision spread through the crew. Many felt relieved that she was safe, but Sandra felt a familiar weight of responsibility press against her chest again. She imagined the schedule board. She imagined the long list of planned scenes. She imagined each delay like a ripple affecting many people. A dangerous thought crept into her mind. If she rested for just a short while, maybe she could return to finish one simple scene. She tried to argue with herself in silence. She told herself it was only one more hour. She believed that if she smiled and walked slowly, no one would worry. She thought pushing through just a bit more might prove she still had control. She looked at the floor. Her heart battled between self-care and obligation. Keanu watched her closely. He knew that look too. He had seen it in himself during hard seasons. The twist of this moment arrived quietly. As the medic stepped away to talk with the production team, Sandra shifted on the couch and tried to sit more upright. She cleared her throat and said maybe they could finish one last simple shot with her sitting. Something safe, something easy. She said she did not want the day to be wasted because of her. She spoke gently but firmly. Her old habit of pushing through pain tried to take control again. This time, Keanu did not stay silent. He shook his head with calm finality. His voice stayed soft but carried a stronger edge. He told her no. He said it clearly without hesitation. He said he would not stand by and watch her push herself into a worse state. She blinked in surprise because he rarely used that tone with her. His refusal did not feel controlling. It felt protective. It felt grounded in respect. Still, she tried to argue. She said the team would understand. She said she could handle one small scene. She said she did not want to disappoint anyone. Keanu gently but firmly interrupted. He told her the only disappointment would be seeing her collapse because no one stopped her. He reminded her of the moment on the platform when her foot slipped. He asked her quietly what would have happened if he had not been close enough to catch her. The question sank into her chest like a stone. She imagined herself falling from that height. She imagined the headlines. She imagined the pain it would cause everyone. Suddenly, the idea of pushing through one more scene did not feel brave. It felt reckless. His words pierced through the fog of guilt and duty. She leaned back against the couch and closed her eyes again. A long, slow breath escaped her. In that breath there was surrender, not defeat, not weakness. Surrender to reality, surrender to care. She finally whispered that he was right. She said she did not trust herself to judge her limits right now. She said she needed someone who could see clearly. Keanu answered simply that he was here. His voice carried such quiet strength that her eyes filled with soft tears. She wiped them quickly, embarrassed at first, but he pretended not to notice the shine on her lashes. He only handed her a small bottle of water and reminded her to drink. The simple gesture felt more powerful than any dramatic speech. He was not just offering advice. He was staying present. He was choosing to stand between her and the pressure she placed on herself. The atmosphere in the room shifted gently. The suspense turned from fear into a tender uncertainty. The danger was not over, but the direction had changed. Still, a subtle tension remained. The medic returned to say a car would be ready soon. The director asked through the door if she was comfortable going home early. Sandra agreed with a small nod, but her heart still carried the leftover fear of what might have happened. She looked at Keanu and saw the same fear reflected in his calm eyes. He was steady yet shaken inside. She realized how deeply he had been worried. She realized he had watched every step she took that day with silent concern. As they prepared to leave the studio, another thought rose quietly in her mind. She wondered why it was so hard for her to accept help. She wondered when she had learned that struggle must always be private. She wondered how many times she had pushed through pain that no one ever saw. Now someone had seen it, and instead of judgment, she had found care. That realization felt like the true turning point of the day. But there was still one more moment waiting. One more choice that would show how much she had really learned from this. And Keanu was about to make sure she did not walk into that moment alone. The late afternoon sun rested softly against the studio windows as Sandra prepared to leave. The light felt calmer now, almost gentle, as if the entire building was trying to soothe her exhausted mind. She stood near the doorway with slow, steady breaths. The medic waited outside to escort her to the car. The director stayed a respectful distance away, watching with quiet worry. The crew had softened their steps and voices. A strange stillness surrounded her as though everyone understood the importance of this moment. But she still felt a small tightness in her chest. She feared she had disappointed the team. She feared she had caused chaos. Her mind carried this guilt like a whisper she could not silence. Keanu stayed beside her with steady calmness. He carried her bag in one hand and kept his other hand near her back. He did not touch her unless needed, but his presence formed a protective shield around her. She felt safer because of it. Still, she battled the silent weight inside her. She thought of the platform, the dizziness, the near fall. Every image returned with sharp clarity. She imagined what might have happened if Keanu had not reached her in time. The thought sent a cold shiver down her spine. She looked at the floor and whispered that she was sorry for causing trouble. Keanu turned toward her with a soft frown. He asked her why she felt the need to apologize. She tried to answer, but her throat tightened. She said the team had worked so hard and she did not want the day wasted. She said everyone had shown up with energy and hope. She said she should have been stronger. She said she should have handled her stress better. Her voice trembled with each confession. Her guilt spilled out before she could stop it. She felt like she had let the entire production down. She waited for Keanu to agree or scold her. She expected him to remind her to take responsibility. Instead, he shook his head slowly. He placed her bag gently on a nearby table. He stepped closer so she could not look away. His voice held a deep, quiet strength when he told her the truth. He said the day was not wasted. He said keeping her safe was more important than any scene. He said she had been strong for too long without rest. He said everyone admired her not for pushing through pain, but for showing humanity. His words hit her heart with unexpected force. They carried so much warmth that her guilt cracked softly at the edges. She breathed in deeply as his voice wrapped around her thoughts like a calm reassurance. The medic called gently from the hallway saying the car was ready. Sandra nodded but did not move yet. She felt a strange hesitation. She did not want to leave the moment unresolved. She wanted to find closure before going home. She turned toward Keanu again and asked him a quiet question. She asked if he thought less of her for breaking down. The room fell silent again. He looked at her with careful eyes. He stepped closer until his voice reached her like a soft breath. He said he thought more of her. He said honesty took courage. He said allowing someone to help was a sign of trust. He said he was grateful she trusted him. The emotion in her chest deepened. She felt a warm ache that made her eyes sting. She blinked quickly to keep tears from falling. She whispered that she did not want to fall apart in front of him. She wanted him to see her as steady and reliable. He smiled gently and said she had always been steady. He said moments of weakness did not erase years of strength. He said she did not fall apart. She simply revealed she was human. Those words softened something inside her. She felt a slow, quiet acceptance begin to settle. But the story had one more twist. As she reached for her bag, her knees wobbled again with sudden weakness. She steadied herself on the doorframe. Keanu reacted instantly. He stepped behind her and placed his hand gently on her arm. The medic hurried toward her, but Keanu guided her with careful control. He helped her sit down before the dizziness grew worse. The medic checked her quickly and said the episode looked like fatigue. He recommended she avoid standing too long. Keanu thanked him, then turned back to her with deep protective focus. Sandra sighed slowly as the dizziness faded. She felt embarrassed for a moment, but Keanu kept his voice soft and warm. He told her not to rush. He reminded her she was allowed to rest. He stayed with her until her breathing calmed. Her fingers loosened around the armrest. She lifted her eyes and met his gaze. In that look, she saw the truth she had been avoiding all day. She saw someone who would not let her push herself into danger. She saw someone who cared enough to intervene even when she resisted. She felt gratitude rise inside her like a warm tide. After several minutes, she felt steady enough to stand again. This time, she accepted Keanu's help without hesitation. She allowed him to hold her arm as they walked toward the exit. The hallway felt long and cool. Her steps were slow but confident. She did not try to hide her weakness anymore. She let him support her with gentle respect. As they reached the car, she turned to him with a soft, emotional smile. She thanked him for staying by her side. She thanked him for seeing what she tried to hide. She thanked him for not letting her fall. Keanu shook his head slightly. He said she did not need to thank him. He said anyone who cared would have done the same. But his eyes revealed something deeper. He had cared long before the platform incident. He had cared through every quiet moment she pushed herself too hard. He had cared even when she believed she needed to be perfect. She felt that truth settle gently into her heart. She stepped into the car and rested against the seat. Keanu leaned down slightly so she could hear him clearly. He said one final thing before the door closed. He said she deserved kindness even on days she tried to act strong. He said she should never feel ashamed for needing help. She nodded slowly with a soft, emotional breath. His words stayed with her like sunlight held inside a quiet room. The car drove away from the studio. Sandra watched the building fade into the distance. She felt tired but peaceful. She replayed the events of the day in her mind, the dizziness, the near fall, Keanu stepping forward, the truth she finally shared, the gentle way he stopped her from pushing further. Each moment reminded her of something she had forgotten. Strength was not about silence. Strength was not about hiding pain. Strength was allowing care to enter when needed. She closed her eyes and smiled softly. She thought about how different the day could have ended. She thought about how easily she could have been hurt. She thought about how Keanu had changed everything by choosing kindness. She let the realization warm her heart. The car moved steadily down the road. The heavy pressure in her chest faded. Her breath grew lighter. Her thoughts softened into calm acceptance. The story ended not with dramatic victory, but with gentle truth. She had learned that caring for herself was not weakness. She had learned that letting someone support her was not failure. She had learned that respect and kindness were stronger than stubborn pride. The day had turned from danger into wisdom because one person refused to let her fall. And as the sun lowered behind the city, she felt something she had not felt all day. Peace, real peace. The kind that grows from being seen, supported, and gently stopped before breaking.